I have read multiple reports of your regularly being drunk at work, including by people who worked with you at Fox News. Do you know that being drunk at work is prohibited for service members under the UCMJ?
Senator, those
Yes
are
or no?
multiple false anonymous reports peddled by NBC
Do
News
you know that
run directly
Do you remember Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing? The Trump presidency has only been a few weeks, though it feels much longer. But if we look back at that hearing, it wasn't just about how unqualified or personally flawed Pete Hegseth was. It also raised questions about his ability to do the job, especially due to a troubling habit he had at Fox News, drinking on the job. This issue has resurfaced as Pete Hegseth continues to show that he is not fit to be our Secretary of Defense. Today, the topic came up again during a hearing, leading to a dramatic outburst in the room, which we'll discuss shortly. But before we dive into that, if I could ask you to quickly like this video and, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. It really helps and means a lot to me. Now let's take a look at how Pete Hegseth responded when he was questioned about this just a couple of months ago.
I have read multiple reports of your regularly being drunk at work, including by people who worked with you at Fox News. Do you know that being drunk at work is prohibited for service members under the UCMJ?
Senator, those
Yes
are
or no?
multiple false anonymous reports peddled by NBC
Do you
News
know that
run directly
drinking on the job
contradictory to
is
the dozens of men and women at
not
Fox News
contemplated
Channel who I work with
I'm
who
not
came
hearing
on
the
the
answer to my
record
question.
and said they
In your
never
opening
seen
statement,
that.
Mr. Hegseth, you commit to holding leaders accountable at all levels. That includes you, of course. And frankly, as Secretary, you will be on the job 24/7. You recently promised some of my Republican colleagues that you stopped drinking and won't drink if confirmed, correct?
Absolutely.
Will you resign as Secretary of Defense if you drink on the job, which is a 24/7 position?
I've made this commitment on behalf of the
Will you
men and women I'm
resign
serving.
as Secretary of Defense
I've
if
made this
you
commitment
drink
on
on the
behalf
job?
of the men and women I'm serving
I'm not
because it's the
hearing-
most important deployment
I'm not
of my
hearing an
life.
answer to my question, so I'm going to move on. While you have made that commitment, you will not commit to resigning if you drink on the job.
I didn't really hear Pete Hegseth say no in his response. Just defensive, angry, and spiteful reactions. I'm curious why that is. Maybe it's because he knew exactly what he'd do once he got the job. He wouldn't have to pretend anymore. He'd return to being the same old Pete Hegseth, the kind of guy who puts soldiers' lives at risk with his poor decisions and lack of concern. That's exactly what was questioned in today's hearing, and it caused a major explosion in the room. Let's take a look.
Talk to is Secretary of Defense Hegseth, and a lot of questions were brought up regarding his drinking habits in his confirmation hearing. To your knowledge, do you know whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information?
I don't have any knowledge of Secretary Hegseth's personal habits.
Director Radcliffe, same question. Yes or no?
No, I'm going to answer that. I think that's an offensive line of questioning. The answer is no. I find it interesting that you
Hey,
want to. I'm going to answer. You asked me a question. Do you want an answer?
No, listen.
You don't
it's a
want
yes
to
or no.
focus on the good work that the CIA is doing, that the intelligence community.
Director,
You
I
want to talk
reclaim my
about-
time. Director, I reclaim my time. Here, I have huge respect for the CIA, huge respect for our men and women in uniform. But this was a question that's on the top of minds of every American, right? He stood in front of a podium in Europe holding a drink. So, of course, we want to know if his performance is compromised. If people were asking if the General Austin was compromised because of a heart issue,
Was his performance compromised because of a successful
I yield
strike?
back, Mr. I bring my
You want to
I
know?
reclaim my
You want
time.
to talk about accepting
I reclaim my
responsibility?
time.
Do you think
I
you should
reclaim my
accept
time.
responsibility
Chairman,
for a
let
successful
me ask-
strike to make Americans safer?
I
You want to
reclaim my
focus
time.
on.
I reclaim my time.
How is that an inappropriate question? This was one of the key issues during his confirmation hearing, whether he had the mental capacity to do the job because he might be drunk. That's a legitimate concern, and it's not just something Democrats and the media are bringing up. As Republicans like to claim, it's the soldiers who are risking their lives, taking orders from Pete Hegseth, And they don't know if they're being directed by someone who's intoxicated. They can't trust their Secretary of Defense. Not only does this put their lives in danger due to Pete Hegseth making reckless decisions, but it also undermines the strength of our military if we can't rely on its leadership. That's a terrifying thought, especially when we see Pete Hegseth acting like this, which gives a clear indication of where he might stand with his drinking.
Here to do. Nobody's texting war plans. Well, I noticed this morning, out came something that doesn't look like war plans. And as a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans because they know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information. You know who sees war plans? I see them every single day. I looked at them this morning. I looked at attack plans this morning. You know who does attack plans and war plans? Men like that admiral right there, Paparo, for the Indo-Pacific, or Eric Kurilla, our general in CENTCOM. They do attack plans and war plans, and thank God we have those leaders who do it and do it well, and our enemies know it.
Someone commented on one of my recent videos about Pete Hegseth, saying that he's been acting a little extra lately, and there seems to be more going on. Everything's a bit jittery now. Now, I'm not an expert on any of this, and I'm not claiming to be. I'm also not suggesting that Pete Hegseth is necessarily drunk right now. But hey, Republicans love to ask questions, so I don't think it hurts if we do the same. Maybe the real question isn't whether Pete Hegseth is drunk, but when was the last time he wasn't? I don't want to make any bold claims, but seriously, why can't I ask these questions? We need to ask them more, and more importantly, we need answers, something Pete Hegseth clearly doesn't want to provide. We saw that in his little press gaggle, where he just ran off when asked questions. It's time for an investigation, which is exactly what Democrats are calling for, and we can see that right here.
Accountability is back. Accountability is back. I quote Secretary Pete Hegseth. That was our Secretary of Defense on the record just a couple of months ago. Now the debate among national security professionals is over whether the Secretary was just incompetent or whether he was drunk. That's how low this has gone, and those are serious debates happening among national security professionals today. Because my colleagues are right. This put American lives at risk. This cheapens the work that our men and women on the front lines of our armed services and our intelligence agencies do every single day. Because it says the rules that apply to you don't apply to us as your leaders. There's a simple concept that I would have thought Pete Hegseth would have learned in the National Guard, which is leadership by example. Well, let me tell you, if any guardsman at any level, including the most junior private, had done what Pete Hegseth did, he would not only be fired, would not only lose his security clearance, but he would probably be criminally prosecuted. Let's just debunk a few myths here, because now the approach these leaders are taking is to lie. That's not in the leadership manual for our armed services, but that's what they're doing now. They're saying, oh, this information wasn't classified. Without even knowing the full details, we know that the time of attack for this operation was in the message. Let's be clear. That's classified information. That's all you need to know.
We need answers. Because as I've said, people's lives aren't just at risk because Pete Hegseth is making reckless decisions. People's lives are in danger due to the breakdown of trust within our military. We've already seen reports highlighting concerns from top officials about whether our communication channels are secure, especially with Pete Hegseth making his own questionable decisions. This is a serious issue, and it's really scary. He needs to resign, and that's exactly what Senator Chris Murphy is calling for right here.
Pete Hegseth needs to resign. There needs to be accountability right now. Because every hour that goes by with no accountability, American credibility all around the world is being destroyed. There are two scandals here. You know the first one, the release of these war plans to a reporter, detailed war plans. It compromised the security of that mission. It put our soldiers and airmen in grave danger. There is a level of stunning incompetence within our national security infrastructure today. But the bigger scandal is the gaslighting, is the fact that the Secretary of Defense, the CIA director, the director of national intelligence think that the American people are so dumb as to make the claim that they didn't actually send war plans when we've all seen the war plans, to make the claim that there was no classified information. What's classified if not for detailed strike information about a mission in the Middle East? This is gaslighting and fabrication at the highest level. And if there is not accountability for the incompetence and the lying, then our reputation and our credibility will be smashed forever.
Pete Hegseth has to go. This isn't about politics. It's about keeping our country safe, plain and simple. If this were a Democratic administration, Democrats would be calling for him to leave, and honestly, he'd probably never have been in this position to begin with. We don't hire Fox News hosts for these roles. Love you, Jessica Tarlow, but I don't think either of us would believe you could be Secretary of Defense. Or maybe Jessica has some experience, I don't know. But we probably wouldn't go down that road. This guy needs to go, and we're calling him out every day on the show. If you want to support that and independent media, as always, hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.